I was a communication student.
Yes.
I had to figure out how I can learn from the internet and just add my voice to climate action. That is how I started. But in the process, I realized that I could just do my little things. Started with planting trees, just rallying my friends to join me to plant trees. I was in the arts and entertainment industry before, so I came with most of the people that we were working together.
Yeah.
In the space to climate space, planting trees, from planting trees to getting to ending plastic pollution campaigns, mangrove tree growing, marine conservation, and to a point where I can go to a room where people are discussing energy, sustainable energy, and I'm comfortable.
Wow.
So all learning by myself.
I really like the combination of your background and how you articulate these issues very, very well. I've seen a lot of footage of you public speaking, and you do it very, very well. So nothing is by chance, and I like that you're carrying people along. You're inspiring others and saying, look, we have something we need to do. We need to get to work. There's been a lot of bills moving forward. We're making some progress. But how are we doing, especially as a young voice? Do people listen to you?
Not really. Many people do not listen, but when they start to experience climate change on firsthand, I think it's the effects that is actually making more people to listen more than our own voices. But to appreciate that in the previous years, we've seen voices of young people, voices of the CSOs being listened to. I can give you a good example of the fig tree that is in Westlands.
Yes.
I remember Daima Green Spaces campaign by Wangari Maathai Foundation, where it's us young people who participated in, was organized, and we had to march for that fig tree not once, not twice. And right now when we pass there and we see it standing, it's the work of the young people.
It's wonderful.
So we have cases where young people are listened to, and it actually motivates us that you can keep raising your voice.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I see that tree all the time.
Yeah, that's remarkable. And you're sitting here and you're very honest. I like how you said you didn't plant your first tree at like 3 years old. And just bringing that story of being a young person representing your community. How difficult or how possible is it for a young person who has no background as well in anything to do with climate matters to follow your lead? And they're listening to you this morning and they're saying, you know what, I probably come from a different background, but if she's this formidable, maybe I can do the same. How difficult, how easy, or what's the process from getting from not knowing anything to sitting here and talking about it?
I'd say, first of all, I like to tell people that the only qualification we all need to protect the planet and to be environmentally conscious is the fact that we live in it. So first of all, you don't need to have any other qualification. That's according to me. And the big problem is the language, the tough language of conservation, which can really make it boring. And also, many young people want to know how they are benefiting from it. It took me up to 4 years, or 3 to 4 years, before I started maybe earning even from the climate space.
Right.
I was going to my pocket to have the activities going. So I think what most people need to start understanding is that it is everyone's responsibility, and they need to remove that from their mind that they need to have some qualification and sort of that. Just try. It's something, at least nowadays we have the internet. Information is there. Just try and read. And we don't need like one person doing a million things. We need a million people doing their little things, and that way we can change the world. So just pick on something that you feel you can be able to change. And also, this is a call to most organizations and even governments to consider young people in the money making part of conservation. Because if you're going to say where are the volunteers, and I know of some youth somewhere, but when it's time to make money, we exclude them, it becomes a problem.
Right.
Like I was telling a friend the other day, we have this conversation of the country wants to plant I think 500 billion trees, and we're looking for nurseries. But first, before we start looking for nurseries, we have to acknowledge the existing ones. We have to acknowledge the existing climate champions. From the rural areas, we have so many people doing amazing things. Bring them on board to even appreciate their efforts in climate action way before the country realized that climate action is something that we should all do. So when we do that, then we are bringing more people into this space. Yes,
that's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear.
I love your answer, and it's compact, it's crystal crystal clear, and you're saying it's a collective effort. There are gains there, and we've seen individuals, communities, organizations that have come to plant trees. We've seen campaigns going on. Currently, the Kenyan government is very keen on having a lot of people getting involved, and you're rallying and reminding people that we have to do it all together. But there's some other areas that need to be highlighted when it comes to climate action. What are some other climate themes that need to be amplified? Because people focus on one area, but I know you've had the experience to see that it's not just one issue. There are many areas that need to be put together. As you said, it can't be one person saving the world. It's impossible. Sounds great in a song, but when you're trying to actually create the change that you need and the impact, there are climate change themes that are usually left out, especially here on the continent. There is an assumption that these are the areas that Africa needs to focus on. What are some of the climate themes that could be amplified better?
I think, first of all, we need to appreciate innovation, climate-friendly innovations, because for a just transition and for us to shift, we need climate-friendly innovations, and especially those within our continent. The reason I say those within our continent and within where we live is because sometimes our problems need to be solved locally.
Right.
We have to solve it in ways that can really be solvable by the solutions that we have around us. So I think that's one thing we need to appreciate. And one other theme I think is energy. Even though I think Kenya, 90% of our energy comes from renewables, which is something very good. But I'm looking at so many people, especially women in the rural areas, who are still affected by in-house pollutants. How are we also going to make sure that they are using clean sorts of cooking and lighting? That's one thing. I'm also looking at marine conservation. Reason being, oceans are the biggest carbon sinks, together with forests. So we cannot ignore oceans as well, and that comes to the discussion of beating plastic pollution. That is really something that may look just obvious and by the way, but it's something very serious, because if you're going to destroy marine life, the corals and all that, it becomes so hard for us to continue cleaning the air that we are dirtifying using the transport system. So transport is another big issue, and I think it's something that Africa need to look at as we are asking for payments for loss and damage and climate financing. We're supposed to start thinking about how we can shift our transport system, because it's the transport system that contributes to fossil fuels, to the emissions. And if you look at Nairobi, I'm sure you can tell that the difference between uptown and downtown because of the transport system. So there's a big need to shift.
I like that you mentioned innovation first. A lot of the guests that we're having as we count down to the Kusi Ideas Festival have been talking about innovation. They've been talking about renewables, and some of these words keep popping up from time to time. I like that as a young person, you're very clear about what the continent needs, minus the narrative that has been pushed globally. And sometimes it has to be very specific to a region. It's time for us to amplify and keep having African voices, especially young voices. There's a lot of young people listening to you right now, and they're very, very inspired. As you continue your fight, I'm sure there's been challenges along the way. And there's a lot of people who probably think this is just a money-making machine. It's minting money, attending fancy conventions, and then right after that, nothing comes to play. What are the tangible results you've seen being part of this fight? We're very hopeful when we see people like you on the forefront